George St. Pierre, Alexander Volkanovski, Tyson Fury. What do these three men all have in common? They're at the top of their game and they're clean shaved, and you could be too with Manscaped. The MMA Sucker podcast is happy to announce that we are now sponsored by Manscaped, and you can get a massive 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code SUCKER at checkout. Now, a little bit about Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below the waist grooming, offering precision engineering tools for your family jewels. With Valentine's Day just around the corner, there's no better time to invest in the all-new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, designed to elevate your grooming game. As part of the Performance Package, we have the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, which I've been lucky enough to get my hands on, and it is a quality bit of kit. Quality bit of kit. The electric trimmer features skin-safe technology, making it harder for you to nick yourself than it would be to land on prime Anderson Silver. It also comes with their brightest ever LED spotlight yet. It's brighter than the lights of the UFC. I mean, come on, guys, check this out. Got that? Look at that bright light. Brighter than the lights of the UFC, I'm telling you. On top of that, it's also waterproof, making shower shaves an absolute breeze. But that's not everything. This package also features the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose hair trimmer, Manscaped's liquid formulations, and two free goodies. The Shed travel bag, which I've been, again, lucky enough to get my hands on, and Boxers 2.0, because let's be honest, guys, comfort is king. And for those of you that want the sculptured Roy Nelson-esque beard, Manscaped brings you the Beard Hedge Pro Kit, designed to shape your scruff effortlessly. It sculpts the cheek lines and maintains the beard style to give you the suave look for every single occasion, especially those romantic occasions with Valentine's Day coming up. Join 10 million, let that sink in, 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com to bag 20% off with the code SUCKER. Is that enough? No? Throw in free worldwide shipping. Like I said, head over to manscaped.com, use the code SUCKER, that's SUCKA at checkout for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Thank me later, your balls will thank you. Hello guys, welcome back to the MMA Sucker channel. As always, I'm Frazer Krohn, and in this one, I'm going to try and keep it to about 10 minutes, just a technical breakdown of this weekend's upcoming UFC 298 main event for the featherweight title between the undefeated at featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski and the undefeated at any weight in his professional career Ilia Topuria. I'm just going to run through a few of the stats and I'll show you those stats now, guys. So we're looking at two really, really competitive guys. Like I said, undefeated, both guys undefeated at featherweight. Alexander Volkanovski's 26-3-0. And Ilia Topuria is 14-0. It's worth noting for Volkanovski, two of those three losses came to Islam Makhachev up at lightweight. The average fight time a little bit longer on the side of the champion, Volkanovski, but then again, he has been competing over 5 rounds, especially in the UFC, a lot longer than Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is going to enjoy a 1 inch height advantage, but he's going to be on the wrong end of a 2-inch reach disadvantage against Alexander Volkanovski. And Volkanovski is coming up in a lot older than Topuria. He's 9 years older than Topuria. Striking, significant strikes landed per minute. Volkanovski's got 6.19 as opposed to Ilia Topuria's 4.44. Striking accuracy, I don't know how much we can ever take from striking accuracy because we know these guys do, at the really top level, tend to throw a lot of feints out there and not actually look to land with a lot of their shots as a result of, wanting to really make a read. But this would suggest that Volkanovski is the slightly more accurate guy. He does absorb slightly more strikes at 3.42 per minute as opposed to Ilia Topuria's 3.05. And the defense again, 58% on the side of Volkanovski, slightly better for Topuria at 67. The grappling is where this fight could go. Of course, this is mixed martial arts, isn't just kickboxing or boxing. Takedown defense is what I really look at for each man. Volkanovski's up at 70%, and an even higher takedown defense for Ilia Topuria, up at 92%. And despite what we've really seen in the career of Ilia Topuria, he averages 2.1 takedowns per 15 minutes, as opposed to Volkanovski's 1.84. That's kind of ironic because we do kind of envisage Volkanovski being the slightly more well-rounded mixed martial artist with regards to the like mixing in the grappling. For me, this is a technical breakdown that I want to give you guys, and it's just a couple of keys to victory for each guy. And they work kind of in tandem with each other. The keys to victory for one guy might be something that they need to avoid, and obviously that means that the other guy then needs to implement those things into their game. The first one I want to touch on is for Volkanovski. He cannot get drawn into a firefight because we know Ilia Topuria has really heavy hand and a lot of power in close and in a tight scenario, really. Look at that Jai Herbert fight. You know, the knockout came for Ilia Topuria when Jai Herbert allowed him to have to get backed up to the fence. It was a firefight, and Topuria got the shorter shots off, and obviously knocked Jai Herbert out. We saw multiple times in the Josh Emmett fight that he didn't mind getting into a bit of a firefight with Josh Emmett, a guy who's arguably the heaviest hitter in the featherweight division. And for Volkanovski, we saw him get dropped by, I think it was Chad Mendes. We also saw him get dropped by Islam Makhachev in their first fight. Right at the end of that first fight, he sort of did take the knee, as it were. In that first fight between Islam Makhachev and Volkanovski. So Volkanovski got to keep it long, and it's something that he's really good at. Really good at doing. He does, he has got the 2-inch reach advantage, and he does tend to fight right on the edge of his reach advantage, where he knows that he can touch his opponent, but his opponent can't get to him. He posts almost with the lead hand, looks to, because he knows that that's right at the end of his reach, so his opponent is out of reach. And then he'll land the jab. More often than not, he'll post and sort of flick the hand down and land the jab. For Volkanovski as well, he's got to be aware of the bodywork of Topuria. This kind of plays into what I was saying in the first instance, is that you can't get into a firefight and you can't let Topuria in too close to him, which is something Topuria will certainly look to do. He's 14-0, and he's full of confidence. We've seen him online. Topuria is going to walk into Volkanovski and look to really, crowd his movement, because Volkanovski won't be able to get, the jabs and the footwork going and throw all of his feints if Topuria is constantly crowding him and constantly giving him something to think about. It could be tough for Volkanovski. But I've also said that Volkanovski really needs to work the leg kick. That'll stop that forward momentum. It'll set up everything else. We know that he loves going to the leg kicks, Volkanovski. Just, for example, the last fight that went 5 rounds at featherweight was against Max Holloway, and the leg kicks landed 28 leg kicks. 28 leg kicks landed for Volkanovski in that first fight with Max Holloway when he somewhat shocked the world. He landed 75 leg kicks. So he's really good. Everything comes off that leg kick. In one of his better performances, in my opinion anyway, against Korean Zombie, he landed 26 leg kicks. Now, if you compare that to Ilia Topuria, who, he, like I said, he is going to walk forward. He is going to look to land heavy shots, but his forward momentum is going to be affected if he can't put weight on that front leg. And Josh Emmett landed 18 leg kicks to him across 25 minutes. We'll go back to let's say the Jai Herbert fight. Jai Herbert only landed the one leg kick really, but if you remember, that one finished in the second round after Topuria was all but finished in that first round, I thought. But Volkanovski has to work off that leg kick, and he also has to do what he often does, is switch stance. We haven't seen Ilia Topuria face someone with the striking of Alexander Volkanovski in his entire career. The closest you could probably say with Jai Herbert, if you look down his record, he's got Josh Emmett, who's a good striker, but he's a one-hitter quitter striker. He will just throw with bad intentions every time. Bryce Mitchell is a grappler, and before Jai Herbert was Ryan Hall, who, let's be honest, is a dreadful striker. For Ilia Topuria, the technical breakdown of this one would be for me, would be for him to stick it on Volkanovski. He has to be aware of the stance switches, constant stance switches by Volkanovski is what sometimes can confuse his opponents. And for me, Topuria really has to, he has to be shooting that high kick. As we saw against Islam Makhachev, Volkanovski is obviously susceptible to the high kick. But you can only do that by setting up the bodywork. If Topuria can work the body with his hands, he'll bring the hands down of Volkanovski naturally, and then that high kick will be there. That's where I think if Ilia Topuria is going to finish Volkanovski like he says he will, he has to work the body with the hands first, get inside, get the hooks, get the uppercuts going before shooting that high kick, up and round the side, as it were. And for both men really, but more so for Topuria, he really has to lean on that 92% takedown defense, because Volkanovski did a lot of grappling on the lead up to both Islam Makhachev fights. And if you remember back to the Yair Rodriguez fight, which he had in between those two Islam Makhachev fights, he did really well in the grappling sort of realm of that fight. He landed 7 takedowns, 7 minutes 13 control time, and then the takedowns just give his opponent that extra little thing to think about, to consider. And obviously it paid off in that Yair Rodriguez fight when he finished him. I think it was in the 3rd or 4th round. Yeah, it was the 3rd round, but he'd already managed to mix in 7 takedowns prior to that. Against the Korean Zombie, there were some brilliant trip takedowns in that fight, which really kept Zombie, guessing. And I think that's where Ilia Topuria is really going to have to lean on that takedown defense. He's going to be the man on the front foot, which he often is in fights. But I've watched Ilia Topuria versus Jai Herbert a couple of times. Jai is a really, really crisp striker, and he's long. For me, Topuria got, there's nothing lucky about the finish of that one, but there was certainly opportunities for Jai Herbert to, should we say, punish Topuria more than he did. Topuria was a little bit sloppy in that one, as we saw with the knee. The knee up the middle is something that Topuria obviously, ate pretty. I say he ate it well, but he ate it, and he was all but out really. And Jai Herbert just couldn't get the job done. But he has to stay switched on for the full 25 minutes, which I think he will do. This is not just another fight; this is a title fight. He managed to stay switched on for the full 25 minutes against Josh Emmett and did really well in that fight. Obviously, that was his last outing. But for me, the technical breakdown of this one really lies with what can either man. The first round for me is really going to dictate this one. How does Volkanovski look coming off the first finish of his career in the UFC, finish loss of his career in the UFC? How does Ilia Topuria handle the moment? This is a massive card. If we just quickly look at the card itself, you've got Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa. I've got a technical breakdown coming out of that on MMAsucker.com, so be sure to check that out. Jeff Neal, Ian Gary, Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo, Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov, Amanda Lemos versus Mackenzie Dern. You've got some really. Angela Lee versus Miranda Maverick is potentially the first fight of the night. So you've got some really big fights on this card, and the crowd are going to be really amped up. How is Ilia Topuria going to handle that? We know Volkanovski knows how to handle the big moments. How's Ilia Topuria going to handle that? And that's why I think the first round is going to be so vital. What I will say is that I think a lot of people are writing off Alexander Volkanovski, and I think everybody's forgotten just how good Alexander Volkanovski is. He took that fight with Islam Makhachev, the second fight, on a week's notice, 10 days notice or something like that. He did have to make it down to 155 despite it being a weight class above what he usually competes in. I think he's going to enter this one full of confidence, to be honest. and he's going to want to, not many of Alexander Volkanovski's opponents have ever really disrespected him, and I feel that's what Topuria has done. He's very brash with what he says, Ilia Topuria, um, and I think it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal fight. My official pick is Alexander Volkanovski retains via unanimous decision, but I think both men are going to be bruised and bloodied. I can see both men even being dropped in this one because Topuria won't give up, no chance, and neither will Volkanovski. And I think we all just have to put a little bit of respect on Volkanovski's name, remember who he is and what the sort of background that he is, that he's come from. And I think we're going to see and still, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw 15-0, still undefeated Ilia Topuria raising the belt above his head at the end of the fight. Like I said, guys, definitely tune into the fight because it's one of the fights of the year. Both guys always produce fireworks. They're both really well-rounded mixed martial artists. It's such an intriguing bout. I was really, really excited for it. I've been Frazer Krohn. All the links are down below. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time.